I'm up in Canada where we don't have the internet. I'm kidding. We do. But I'm teaching a grade 9 class, so a little bit older than I think everyone else before me. Is that right, Justin?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it was probably, I need to preface as well that I did 4 soles before this one. So I haven't done many with this class, and I had just done one the period before I had Justin and Jeff arrive up in Canada. And basically they arrived and I threw Sagata's video on and I said to my class, we're going with this, let's do it. And I think as maybe Brandy had mentioned or someone, it was very engaging right away to be part of this global kind of conversation. And I prefaced it that way. So you have buy-in because suddenly it seems this is an important thing that's going to be looked at, which is wonderful. And I think that's what helped me get around the whole it didn't really connect to what I was teaching thing that Ryan was mentioning. The interesting thing I think Justin also alluded to is that it was kind of divided up into the same categories that the grade 3s and 5s did. You know, the origins of the internet, the economic aspects, the technology part. So they were able to find, I think based on Sagata's questions, you know, very similar pathways into trying to answer this question. It did become quite surface. I think that that's not something to be afraid of with SOLE. I'm always looking for those tiny gems, and I'm sure you guys are too, where you have like a great question that comes out of this question or a great moment of realization that you can then later unpack. The presentations were good. Some of the kids, I used Post-it notes, like large ones, so the kids can kind of draw on them and trying to get away from just reading their answer.
What is the internet? So the internet, there's no real definition. The internet is many things. So the definition that we kind of made and like researched was the internet is a series of networks where information can travel in any possible direction. It is used to transmit data in various types like images, videos, mail, etc. It first started as a US government defense known as the ARPANET in the 1960s, and without the Cold War or the threat of the Cold War, then we would not have created the internet because that was the reasoning behind the creation of it. In 1985, the internet then became public to the public because originally it was just a private server.
Okay, so how it works, basically your computer needs to connect to the service provider in your house, and then that service provider will send the information to another service, like another server. So for example, you want to send your email to Aunt Beth, you're going to send it, you're going to put it in Gmail, and it's going to send it to Gmail server, which is going to forward that to AOL, which is Aunt Beth's hypothetical server. And then it goes across a series of networks, so the internet, which is either underground or on the things that you see on the side of the road, and then it arrives at Aunt Beth's house, and she gets your email.
Okay.
So it all begins with an address. So each computer connected to the internet has an IP address formed by NNN.NNN.NNN.NNN. So each NNN is a number from 0 to 255. So every computer has a unique IP address. And if you want to send a message to another computer that's connected to the internet, so your text is translated to electronic signals and transmit through the internet and transmit back to the alphabetical text. And that is for the protocol stack that's in your computer's operating system.
The internet. So I kind of put in what is it, because it's hard to like explain who pays for it unless like I kind of like go into a bit more detail of what is it. I know they already explained, but like I have a bit of a different explanation, I guess. So how does the internet work and how does it support itself? The internet, it's very, if you really think about it, it's very hard to know what the internet actually is, because what people are the most familiar with is Google, because that's what they use to like search everything up. That's what's most popular, right? But Google is a completely separate company, and they pay for themselves. But like, that's just Google, and like, what is the internet? So like, what I feel it is like a platform for everybody to like create like separate websites on. And so like in the internet, it's like something that's built upon other creators that's making like websites and search engines. Search engines and like the internet itself is very different. So it's hard to explain who actually pays for the internet. It's not really like a thing that you like pay for search engines. Yeah, just private companies. Like it's all built on like people who make websites and corporations, right? But the internet is like what's the result of everything combined together from that.
Awesome.
And then as we just like this short explanation, and then our group made a couple of theories. And then it's like browsers are like Google Chrome, Yahoo, and stuff. It's like it might be like it's pretty similar to like Firefox, Internet Explorer, and stuff. They're just separate browsers, so that's completely different from the internet itself. They pay for their own servers, and then websites pay them to advertise their own websites. And then you guys read your own theories.
Okay, so one of my theories is that like the taxes we pay, some of it could go to the government, some of it could go to companies like Google or Safari, Google Chrome. So like some part of our taxes could be used to like this giant thing called the internet, like the software and hardware that we need to like contain all the data. The money that we pay, some of it could be used to like buy the equipment needed to keep the internet running and like the software.
But I wondered if maybe the question itself is a difficult one because it's automatically being taken by the students, I think, as either a past, like a question about the internet's past, or maybe the current, you know, like Fortnite and so on.
Okay, so who actually owns the internet? So there's two answers to this question. The first one being nobody, and the second one being lots of people.
So we'll explain that further now.
Yeah.
Okay, so the reason we say that is because you can take it from two perspectives. So the first one is a single entity, which means, so really what it is, because there's no organization really that like just owns the internet entirely. There's many people that own it, and like no organization can like say that they have like ownership of the internet itself, as well as no government can claim to owning the internet, and nor can any company. And the internet's kind of like saying, so like who owns agriculture? Obviously no one does, because agriculture is like a bunch of techniques. And like many people can own like tools, like tractors and like shovels. So no one like just owns like the technique itself. And this is the second perspective. So there's another point of view, which is that thousands of people and organizations own the internet, because the internet consists of a lot of different like bits and pieces. And some of these owners like have control over like the level of access you can gain. And even at our school, we have like our servers, and like you can't gain access to every single site. And like yes, like some companies might not own like the entire system of the internet, but they have an impact like on your net experience of what you can see, how you can see it, and what you can do on those websites.
And I'm wondering if a question, like a follow-up SOLE, where it's, you know, what might the internet be, is maybe more along the lines of what Sagata's trying to go for, or maybe this is part of his master plan anyway. Because my kids, even though they were grade 9s and they're very, very smart kids, they weren't really reaching into maybe the philosophical dimensions of what might this thing be used for. Like, is it a tool? Is it just replacing textbooks? Or is it something completely different, never seen before on Earth, that can change everything? Although one group, I should say, and I'll end on this, they did start to mention the singularity. And they got into the dark web, but then they kind of got into this idea that we might all become robots and stuff. So I thought that was interesting. It wasn't presented as depressing, and I don't think they even were thinking of it as depressing, just as an inevitable outcome that we will all eventually become robots. So yeah, it was great. I mean, I'll do it again. I'm loving SOLE, and yeah, thanks for having me part of this.
So our question was, how will the future change and develop? How will the internet change and develop the future?
And we had a quote that says, "The question of whether we have reached the singularity between humans and technology is one on the lips of many scientists and technology experts who feel that this time is closer than ever before, but may not have occurred the expiration of the next 2 decades. So it's basically saying, like, humans and technology were sort of becoming one and really working together. So we can't really know for sure what the future holds for us. One thing that we do know is that technology is going to be the new face of change. Here on Laurel's computer, we have a picture of the first programmable computer ever made, and we can see that the internet and technology as a whole has really progressed a lot since then.
That's MIT, I think.
Yeah. The thing is, the first computer ever made was designed in 1822. The first programmable computer came in 1938, and the internet itself was only created in 83. Meaning that we've been able to develop technology a lot faster since we've had this internet and this access and this ability to relay information so quickly from like as far as across the country and even across the globe.
Okay, so it's hard to say that we for sure know what the future will hold for us, but one thing's for sure is that we don't, we'll know that it will develop, and the Wi-Fi will change, and it's nothing that we can do about it, and it may take over the fact, like jobs or things that people do in the daily life, but it will improve also, so there's negative and positive things that
Yeah, we've actually already seen this happening, like things like ATMs, like you used to go into the bank and walk in and cash your check like to a person. Now you just feed it into a machine, you get the money. And, like we've already seen it start to happen.
This is just an image, like kind of what they're building. It's for like a little less older.
You can see it progress.
Technology and machinery will be able to take over the jobs of working citizens, like we just mentioned. The McKinsey Global Institute estimated that with the rise of artificial intelligence, there will be seen between 45 to 70 million workers lose their jobs across the next decade, and the situation grows even worse for many low-skilled workers in the upcoming years. We've already seen this beginning to happen, like we said, and we feel like, for me, when we were brainstorming, I really thought like modernization was something that would really come up. Like on my computer here, I have an Apple computer, so you can see the difference, the change on our Venngage. We kind of have like the colors represent how it's changed. We have like the lighter colors represent older computers, and then as it gets darker, we have like modernization. So, yeah.
I agree with Ria that I think the question was very authentic, and I think that's what led my group of grade 9s into just a search to discover the answer. It's almost like nobody had ever asked them that before, and they were like, yeah, why don't we know this, or we should know this. Of course, they didn't necessarily figure it out, but there was an authentic search. I actually did have one group. I teach, it's a grade 9 history class, and they made the connection between the origins of the internet, which have vaguely military origins, and then there's scientists at CERN and so on. And they said, Mr. Daigle, this is what was happening in the Cold War. And I said, that's right. And they kind of made the connection that the internet kind of came out of this Cold War. And I thought that was great. So that surprised me, you know, once again, that kids can make connections that there's no way you can put into a lesson plan ahead of time. I think the frustration around time is both, it's a double-edged sword, right? Of course, we all know that more time would lead to a deeper understanding of the question, but I've also found if you want to boost collaboration, and I'm sure you can all agree, when there's those constraints put in, my group suddenly had to diversify, and it's like, okay, I'm on this site, you go on the other site, and I'll go over here. Though they were giving each other roles almost competitively out of the urge to find more information out quickly. And so that to me is like, it might be a forced collaboration, but it's a strategic collaboration to utilize the time effectively. And that continues to surprise me about SOLE. I think I mentioned before the idea that moving into the future more, what might the internet be? I remember talking to Jeff, and he was talking to me about what Sagata had said to him, that we've got, English as a subject, we've got math as a subject, and science as a subject, but why not the internet? We've kind of been thinking over the last 25 years that the internet is a medium or a tool, and it is, but it also could be a standalone subject in the sense that we need to obviously have credibility and discernment as to how to use it, but it could be far more than that. And it would be interesting to hear from kids' perspectives. I think back to what Edward de Bono, the educator from the 80s, I think he used to get, kids to reinvent the airplane or draw what they think an airplane should look like or something. And there's something magical about any age group forecasting into the future. And I think that's what I would like to see a little bit more. I've also got a website that I can share with everybody. I went to a talk last week by he's actually a Washington-based musician, artist, conceptual artist. He uses the internet as kind of his subject matter, and his name is DJ Spooky. And he's got a project called Quantacopia or Quantopia, which is the evolution of the internet. So I might be showing the class something like that before asking a deeper question, just to give them a sense of what's possible before sending them out into their soul, to almost set the parameters of a wider possibility and more creative possibilities for presentation and so on.